If I had become aware of this plan before Danny was murdered, I would have stopped it.
Ms. Adelson, you certainly can continue. However, the court can take into consideration the utter lack of remorse that you are displaying. Please proceed if you desire to do so.
I promise you with my whole heart. I swear to you on my life, I was not involved in any way with Danny's murder.
Mama Donna delivering her final words before heading off to prison. The judge saying those words showed an utter lack of remorse. So what do you think of her statement? Plus, a shocking ruling out of Philadelphia. Ellen Greenberg's mysterious death ruled a suicide yet again. Our power panel reacts to the medical examiner's findings. Also this hour, where is Adam Montgomery? The man convicted of murdering his 5-year-old daughter, Harmony, is back in the spotlight as his wrongful death lawsuit is dismissed after he couldn't be served. Plus, Luigi Mangione wants his federal charges dismissed. So could there be another legal win for the accused assassin? We'll talk about it. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. We got a great show planned for you, so let's get it started. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. Who was that for? Who was that dramatic, self-serving, narcissistic, unremorseful, unsworn statement for? Pants on fire, Mama Donna. I see why you didn't take the oath and swear to tell the truth. That rotten statement was chock full of too many lies to count. The lie I hated the most was when she claimed that she had known about the plot to murder her former son-in-law, Dan Markel, and that she would have stopped it. Stopped it? Stopped it? How about stop lying, Donna? How about owning the truth that you betrayed the father of your grandchildren in the most cruel and heartless way? Taking his life and also victimizing his children, whether she acknowledges or not, she did, in depriving them of their father. By all accounts, everyone says what a wonderful father and what a good man Dan Markel was. I gotta tell you, I think it was offensive hearing Donna Adelson pretending to love and respect him and miss him. That was a rotten performance with tears only because she got caught. She got caught. Show's over now, Mama Donna. The only thing you said that I do agree with is that the people who murdered Dan Markel belong in prison. Yes. Yes, you do. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
She told me, when I interviewed her on June 12th of this year, that her rage caused the stabbings. Rage took control of her to make her do the, quote, wrong thing.
In Ohio, we've got the state's rebuttal witness returning to the stand for the cross in the murder trial for defendant Bianca Ellis. Then comes the closing arguments. Court's going to get underway at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll take you in there live when we're able to. In Florida, we've got defendant Mark Sievers back in court for his post-conviction relief hearing. This is starting up at 9 a.m. Eastern time. He's fighting his conviction after he was found guilty of murdering his wife, Teresa, back in 2019, and he was sentenced to death. Also happening in Florida, we've got the toxic relationship murder trial for defendant Daisy Link. This one resumes this morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. She's accused of shooting and killing her partner, Pedro. Now, this morning, our top story, quite frankly, is hard to believe. We've been covering the quest of Ellen Greenberg's family and their search for justice. They contend that the 27-year-old's death by 20 stab wounds, some even to her back, was not a suicide. Now, after years of demanding the justice of the city of Philadelphia, the city decided to take another look. And now, People magazine is exclusively reporting that they've received the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's report. The hearing is scheduled for today, so the public's going to learn all this today. But if you read People, you'll see that they learned that once again, the ME has ruled her death a suicide. This is just days ago. Her parents joined Joel Waldman on his podcast, Surviving the Survivor. Joel Waldman, of course, friend of the network. And take a listen to some of what Ellen Greenberg's father shared with Joel.
Oh, I'm not optimistic.
No.
I think the city's going to sit on this and do nothing if they can. I think there's going to really have to prod them and threaten them to do anything. Because if I was the city, I would just sit on this and do nothing because they are afraid of being sued. That's what this is all about from the city's viewpoint. If they give in to us, they're afraid they're going to get sued by others who have similar problems like us. So to me, if I was the city, I would just sit and keep my mouth shut and say no comment.
Now, Court TV did reach out to the medical examiner's office, but they have not gotten back to us at this point in time. Later today, the Greenberg family and the city of Philadelphia are scheduled to go before the court. This is in Philadelphia Common Pleas Court. The judge is Linda Carpenter. They're expected to appear today for a hearing. And I suppose we find out what's next, if anything, after this. So what many of us want to know is how in the world did this medical examiner come to this conclusion again? Let's bring in our guests. Former homicide prosecutor who reinvestigated the case, Guy D'Andrea, is with us. So is board-certified forensic pathologist Dr. Priya Banerjee, and private investigator, also retired member of our military and the NYPD, Manuel Gomez. Great to have you all here on this one. Guy, let me start with you here, please. As you are one of those people that arguably knows this case better than everybody. You've poured through the file. You've spoke to the Greenberg family time and time again. What's your reaction this morning, Guy?
Julie, it's absolutely sickening, especially when you dive into the rationale that was used to maintain this as a suicide. So they go back to the same talking points. The door was latched. There was no defensive wounds. Neither of that is true in the sense that the latch, which you know, can be done or undone from the outside, and the way that it was damaged proves that no one breached that door, meaning whatever the story was about how the fiancé entered cannot be true physically speaking. There were defensive wounds on her wrist. The medical examiner said no overturned items. That's not true. There were. And most shocking, the medical examiner didn't even bother to do any independent review of the spinal column. She just dismissed the findings of other neuropathologists who did the examination. This is shocking and absolutely appalling.
Guy, one of those forensic pathologists was world-renowned Dr. Cyril Wecht, as you well know, late great doctor who said it was strongly suspicious of homicide. Dr. Priya Banerjee, what do you say this morning to this?
Wow. I do want to say that there's always a caveat that if new information or new reasons come about to re-review a case, re-rule on a case, that can be done. But that drawing, that illustration that you just put really sums up a lot. Now, to me, it's, you know, when we look at an autopsy, the order of wounds are sometimes hard to determine, but N and T as are labeled here. This isn't my diagram, very useful in that you can see that the spinal cord is injured, or the spinal column at least, right? The bones are where the knife wounds are entering, and that's with force. That doesn't just slide right in, and that can potentially injure the spinal column, even shock it, if you will, okay? Sort of like a concussion of the spinal cord. That's going to render her unable to use her arms, the level that we're talking at, high up. Okay. And the nerves for the arms come out below that. So she's effectively paralyzed, in my opinion, or that's what I'm most worried about here. Then how would we explain the chest wound after with the knife left in her?
Excellent analysis, Dr. Priya. Thank you. Manuel Gomez, of course, I want to go to you about the crime scene, the evidence collection in this case. Would you weigh in on that, please?
Well, I find it shocking that, one, it's impossible for her to stab herself the way these pictures show. Two, all right, the judge should have stepped in. I mean, everybody in the world can see this woman did not stab herself 20 times as it shows in your diagram. And it shows the angles of the wounds. There's no way her arm could have reached that point. That's one. And then I think the judge had a crucial role in this case to state the obvious. She was murdered. How do you consider this a suspicious death? There's no way. This was a clear-cut murder, and this is one of the things that I'm talking about, that judges are not stepping up to the plate and doing what they need to do, and that we need to have some type of independent agency that can turn around and remove judges from the bench who don't proper act in the way the law is supposed to be. This case is an abomination to what justice is. This family is being robbed. She was murdered. And it's unfortunate we're labeling it as a suicide when clearly it's not.
I agree. I agree with all of the points that all three of you made here. I'm stunned. I had a feeling things might stall a bit today. I kind of thought, maybe they're going to say something like undetermined, reopen, still not advance to the point of homicide, but at least that kind of gets us going in a direction of reinvestigation. Guy DeAndrea, let me go to you about something that's bothered me. I'm sure it's bothered you too. There were 2 clean knives in the sink in Ellen Greenberg's apartment. And yet, supposedly, it was this knife from a knife block on the counter that was knocked over. That was the one that she used over and over again to kill herself, if we believe what is being said at this point. There is a finding from this second medical examiner, as with the first, where they said, the fiancé's DNA was not on the knife that was used to kill herself. My question is, how do we know that it was that knife in her hand? How do we know that one of those clean knives wasn't actually the one used and there was a swapping, maybe? I don't know. Would you weigh in, Guy?
Absolutely. None of those knives in the sink were tested. And to be fair, I don't know what it would show because they were clearly washed. But here's the thing that bothers me with testing for just DNA on the knife and this over-reliance of Ellen's DNA. Of course, Ellen's DNA is going to be on the knife because her blood is on it. Now, we all know that if you don't have an injury and you're holding the handle of a knife, the odds of leaving your DNA, it can happen, but it is very, very low. I think the society generally thinks if you touch something, there's going to be DNA. That's just not true. Better analysis would have been a combination of a DNA testing as well as fingerprints, right? And that still may not have shown anything because all he would had to have done, or anyone who did this would have had to have done, would be wipe off the knife. And so that over-reliance is of no moment to me, and it's obviously of no surprise that her DNA is on the knife because it is her DNA on the knife in the sense that it's her blood.
Guy, thank you for that. That's really, really insightful. Dr. Priya, let me go to you next, please. Something that I learned from Dr. Wecht is how forensic pathologists like yourself will correlate, findings that police gather at the scene with the findings at autopsy. And here we know one of the facts that is clearly in dispute now is whether she was actually locked in there by herself. I'm curious if someone brought you that fact and said she was alone without a doubt, how much does that influence your opinion on a case like this where we're seeing stab wounds to the back of her neck and the back of her head?
So I think we've talked before that I've had multiple cases where it is numerous stab wounds that are self-inflicted, okay? But I always start suspicious, if you will, right? And then you have to prove that it's not a homicide. And there is a category, as you mentioned, manner of death called undetermined, right? Which is things aren't adding up completely. And I think despite the fact that she would be alone, let's assume that, and they're showing the door hinge there, I think I would have a hard time stomaching suicide as was initially and then now ruled again. I think, you have to go with some common sense too, that, could it be I don't know the intricacies of locks and hinges. I just know the medicine and the angles, as my colleagues have said, the depths. I think it's just weird. And I would go at least undetermined, even if the investigation told me no way, no how. That's just my professional opinion.
Really appreciate that, Dr. Priya. Sam Goldberg, Ellen Greenberg's fiance, gave this statement to CNN saying, quote, "When Ellen took her own life, it left me bewildered. She was a wonderful and kind person who had everything to live for. In the years that have passed, I've had to endure the pathetic and despicable attempts to desecrate my reputation by creating a narrative that embraces lies, distortions, and falsehoods." Again, not a suspect, never been a suspect, not charged. Want to be very clear on that. Manuel Gomez, if you could interview this gentleman, though, let's say he would cooperate and do an interview with you, what would you ask him?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part again.
Oh, what would you ask Ellen Greenberg's fiance if you could speak to him?
Oh, God, I would love to get this guy in a room alone. All right. This guy, I would definitely press him about what his situation was with her, try to tap into his mindset, look at his body movements, use a ruse to try to see if I can shake him, because I do believe that she was murdered. And I'm going to tell you, and I would express that to him and put the fear of that into him, because the fact is, where is the history of her wanting to commit suicide? I don't see it there. And this is one of the things. Why would this gorgeous woman want to kill herself? Why, Julie? And that's what I would press him with and see if I could shake him.
Excellent points. Manuel Gomez, Dr. Priya Banerjee, Attorney Guy D'Andrea, thank you all so much. Coming up next on Opening Statements.
A biased judge and jury were influenced by years of one-sided news pieces.
With not one iota of actual evidence, the state convinced a Tallahassee jury that I solicited and conspired with other people to have Danny killed.
Dramatic statements delivered by both Harvey and Donna Adelson at her sentencing. So how did their words come across? Plus, a wrongful death lawsuit in the murder of Harmony Montgomery dismissed after apparently they couldn't find Adam to serve him. So where is the convicted killer? That's next.
I'm Vinny Politan. Welcome to Closing Arguments.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Donna Adelson wasn't a regular mother.
She's the matriarch mastermind.
She's just being a parent, not a killer.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rollins. Season finale, Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific.
Only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Donna Adelson is back as a trending topic this morning as the 76-year-old convicted killer refused to show any remorse during her sentencing on Monday. Donna is the 5th person to be convicted overall and sentenced in the case centering around the murder of her former son-in-law, Dan Markell. And before she received her automatic life sentence, Mama Donna had this to say.
What happened to Danny is unforgivable. But I am an innocent woman convicted of this terrible crime without evidence. Danny was a brilliant legal scholar. He would have been appalled at the total lack of justice that went on during my trial. It is interesting how the state can't make up its mind about who is what they call the, quote, mastermind behind this murder. In both of Catherine Magbanow's trials, the state claimed she was the mastermind behind Danny's murder. In my son Charlie Adelson's trial, they claimed he was the mastermind. And now in my trial, they claimed that I, this grandma, was the mastermind behind the murder. I had no idea that other people planned to cut Danny's life short. And the people who did this are exactly where they deserve to be. But I had no knowledge that this horrible, evil act was going to take place. If I had become aware of this plan before Danny was murdered, I would have stopped it.
What's your reaction to Donna's words? My reactions, oh, please. We got a fill-in-the-blank question for our power panel this morning in our Trending and True Crime segment. So you can play along, too, at home. Tweet us your responses, put them on Facebook, wherever you like. We're asking, Donna Adelson's sentencing was... Fill in the blank for us. Let's bring in our legal eagles in the studio with me. So happy to have criminal defense attorney Mark Begnaud here, and joining us remotely, professor and former prosecutor Melba Pearson. Great to have you both on the show. All right, so let's do the fill in the blank with the sentencing. Mark Begnaud, what do you say?
I'd say it was ill-advised, Julie.
That's great.
I don't think she was doing
great.
herself any favors.
No, I couldn't believe that someone on her legal team wasn't looking over that more carefully, which she...
Jumping up, stopping her, yanking her down. Yeah.
Giving her the hook, like on a stage presentation. Melba, what do you say? Donna Adelson's sentencing was...
Pure, unadulterated trash. That's what that statement was. Trash. I mean, come on. The way she had the victim's name in her mouth, talk about, well, Danny would have been appalled. Well, Danny's a legal scholar. Danny knows the evidence. Danny knows you're guilty. So I thought that was really in poor taste. And I agree with Matt that this was ill-advised. She should have stuck to, okay, she maintains her innocence, fine, but not to go down the jury, this one's corrupt, the judge, this is all one-sided, blah, blah, blah. Don't paint yourself to be the victim. Just, be humble, take your sentence, and let it go through the appeal process. But what she did not endear herself to anyone. And she still got what she deserved, which is lifeless 30.
Exactly, Melba sure did. Now, Donna wasn't the only one to speak on Monday. We know that Harvey spoke as well. He proclaimed his wife's innocence and pointed to a biased prosecution and judge.
This summer was our 54th wedding anniversary, and I had to spend it without her, hand in mind. She has done nothing wrong, and yet is being punished for a crime that she did not commit. I thought we lived in a different kind of world, but I guess I was wrong. I have listened, watched, and sat in the courtroom for the entire trial, and I could not help but scream in my mind by the witnesses that were brought forward by the prosecution who told outright lies. You're sending an innocent woman to prison. You have taken my wife and you have taken my life as well. And for what? This is not justice. It is vengeance, and it is wrong.
A little sampling from Harvey there. Mark Begnaud, what did you think? How do you think he came across?
I mean, I think they both came across as very, I think, entitled, very self-serving, very. I mean, when I saw her statements yesterday, like, I had to double check to make sure her name wasn't Karen. Like, it was just a very she got convicted and now she's like, can I speak to your manager? It was just very entitled, and I don't think either of them came off very well at all.
I had a feeling she would speak. I really did. Everybody's saying no. I'm going, oh, she will. She's entitled. Melba Pearson, what about Harvey? What do you think about him? How did he come off to you?
Yeah, insulting the judge who has your wife's fate in his hands, not a good idea. Definitely not a good look. What I thought was interesting, though, was looking at the reaction of the people in the audience, because there was somebody a lady in maybe the second to the last row who kept having to cover her mouth every time he got up to speak. So I don't know if it just wasn't really landing so well. She was just acting very, very, kind of like the smirk and kind of having her head down. So everybody knew that statement was trash. And, he's going to say what he needs to say because he possibly is in the frame and maybe next in line along with Wendy.
Oh, that's good. That's good, Melba. I'm so glad you brought it up. Because we talk a lot about Wendy, but I'm in the camp that I think he, too, could be facing charges. So let's talk about that. Melba, since you raised the point, what do you think the likelihood is that we'll see Wendy and Harvey join Donna and Charlie as defendants?
I think the likelihood for Wendy is way higher. I know there's a few running bets as to when. My guess would be at the top of the new year.
Oh, Melba, we lost you. Oh, the tech gremlins came in. I think what you were saying was that maybe at the top of the new year, you're saying maybe time for some charging. We'll see if we can get you back to finish. Mark, in the meantime, I want to ask you the same question. What do you think about the likelihood of Wendy and Harvey joining the others?
I agree. I could see Wendy coming down the pike pretty soon. I don't know if there have been any official statements out of the DA's office or if there have been maybe even hints towards it out of the DA's office, but they seem to be acting very methodical here, right? You know, they do, you know, they do the gunman, you know, the middle lady, then Charlie, then mom, and so they seem to be kind of, you know, like inching further every single time. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're not at the end of the road here.
Right. Yeah, they started with the most immediate criminals, right? The people who did the shit. You're right. They methodically went from the, okay, so let's go the gangbangers to the girlfriend, to boyfriend, Dennis Charlie, to Mama Donna. And now, you know, the person who stood to gain the most was Wendy. Mel, but we got you back. So where we lost you was when you said you think maybe at the start of the new year. And you said Wendy you think is more likely than Harvey. Would you kind of pick up there?
Yes. So I'm thinking the start of the new year because the prosecution team needs to recalibrate. They need to breathe. The holidays are coming. So I think a cleaner start would be January, February. Charges get dropped on Wendy. Obviously, that's grand jury. An indictment would have to happen because that's how we handle first-degree murder in Florida. So I would think she would be next up. Charlie, I think, is going to be a little bit harder, but the evidence around the gift, your dad's birthday gift, I think that is going to be the thread that if the prosecution can build on that, they can pull together a case. But I think Wendy first, and then if there's any gas left in the tank, Charlie.
Harvey, yes, exactly. That birthday
Harvey,
gift, you're right,
yes, Harvey.
Mel, but yeah, no, we all knew what you meant. Giving Catherine McBanoa his car, what was that all about? That was another fun fact we learned in this trial. I could go on and on. I love talking with you too. Melba Pearson, Mark Begner, you both are here for this show. Stand by, please, friends at home. When we come back, we're talking about Adam Montgomery, the man convicted of murdering his beautiful daughter, 5-year-old Harmony.
Here the child died, but I would direct...
The child didn't just die. The child was killed after the child was given to the person. The state delivered the child to the person who killed him, right? And that was a father.
So where is Adam Montgomery? A wrongful death lawsuit was dismissed. So apparently the reason was lack of service? What happens next? We'll talk about it. And accused assassin Luigi Mangione wants his federal charges dismissed. He also wants the death penalty off the table. We'll talk about how likely that may be.
Can you make me a promise? Like, man to man? Can you tell me that she's alive?
You're gonna play the same word games that you played with me the other day.
It's not word games.
Why is it you have so much trouble talking about Harmony? Because I got nothing else to say.
So where is Adam Montgomery? The man convicted of murdering his daughter Harmony is back in our spotlight this morning because his whereabouts are apparently a mystery. A judge dismissed a wrongful death lawsuit filed against Adam Montgomery by Harmony's mother, Crystal Sorey. Now, this was allegedly because authorities can't find him to serve him. However, Crystal Sorey's attorney says they did serve him. He said, quote, Adam Montgomery was timely served with the lawsuit, and an affidavit of service was filed with the Superior Court on September 15th, 2025. Therefore, we believe this is a court error, and we'll be looking into it first thing on Tuesday. That's today. All right, now we know convicted killer, I call him Coward Montgomery. Coward Montgomery was transferred out of New Hampshire immediately after his sentencing took place, and he was allegedly moved to Virginia. But a search of prisons, and we've done it at Court TV in Virginia, it turns up empty for us. So we're wondering, where is he and why is his location being kept secret. Let's talk about that. In the studio with me, I have criminal defense attorney and civil rights attorney Mark Bagno. And joining us remotely for the first time, retired assistant sheriff in Charleston County, South Carolina, Mitch Lucas, who also ran the largest jail in South Carolina. So Mitch, welcome to the show. I'll start with you here, please. What do you think in terms of his whereabouts being kept secret? I'd love for you to weigh in on this, if there's any reason that may be actually occurring.
Well, the only thing I can think of is if he was recently taken to the Virginia Department of Correction, they have him in some receiving evaluation center, and it's not showing up on their website. I don't know of any other reason why he would not. It would not be clear where he's at.
And with serving an inmate with process, Mitch, how simple or how complicated is that? Explain it for our viewers, please.
It's a little complicated. The jail would have to produce the inmate because obviously the process servers couldn't simply walk into the jail and find the inmate. So it's a little cumbersome, but it's not. It happens on a regular basis because inmates have to participate in their own defense and in any type of court proceedings. So it's not that hard.
Sure, appreciate it. Mark Bagno, legally, this is a head scratcher, isn't it? Would love for you to weigh in on why you think this got kicked if this attorney if he's correct that Adam was served.
Well, if he's correct, then it is a clerical error, because I see that in his statement he says that Adam was served and the return of service was filed. So if everything was done right, if he was served, if the return of service was filed, then something clerical happened. Either maybe he filed it under the wrong case number and it went into the wrong file. I mean, I'm speculating here. Maybe the judge's office was looking at the wrong file when they issued their order. But if it really was served and if it really was filed, then they should be clear.
Sure, no, appreciate that. In backing up a step, Crystal Sorey got a big judgment, a $2.5 million judgment from the state of New Hampshire already. Why in the world is she suing that animal who's got nothing to take? What do you think about that?
I mean, it's a head scratcher, right? Why do you sue? Why are you going to put that much resource and energy into suing somebody that you can't really get a recovery out of? What struck me, though, was the timing of it, because it's my understanding that lawsuit was filed about a month after that $2.5 million judgment. And so I don't know if behind the scenes there might be some fight over that money. I mean, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I know that in most states, a person can't collect in a wrongful death lawsuit if they're the one that causes the death. So if you kill your husband, you kill your wife, you kill your child, you can't then sue somebody else for wrongful death and collect. But I don't know the law here, and I don't know if maybe there is some fighting behind the scenes that is driving this lawsuit.
That's great insight, Mark. Yeah, you wonder what's going on. Something, I feel like there's something maybe we're just not sure of. There's some motivation here, because what utility would there be? I have a clip. This is from trial, because we know Adam Montgomery also is going to be in court this week. He's trying to appeal his case, and so let's talk about some of the issues that came up. The beating of his wife, Kayla, came up. She testified to that. Let's take a listen.
He wanted me to tell him who I was cheating on him with, or if I was working with the cops, and I kept saying that I didn't, and he kept hitting me anyway. He would accuse me of sleeping with the guy downstairs, sleeping with all these different people, that I came out of the window one night. I couldn't take care of the kids.
Okay, and so this goes to some of his complaints coming up on appeal, and we're summarizing here. There's more issues laid out in the briefs that were filed, but so he is upset that the court didn't sever the assault charges he had from the murder charges. But remember, Harmony was beaten to death, was the allegation, so let's not forget that. The past abuse information was admitted. Kayla testified to what you just heard. His interaction with police on body camera footage shown to the jury as well. He's upset about these things. Mark Bagno, is there anything that you think has legs here?
It's hard to say. I do know, so the gist of most of the argument seems to be that there is other evidence that was brought in that wasn't germane to the night in question, the day in question. And so, for example, the severance issue has to do with a July assault incident, which was months before the actual death. And so that's what they're going for. And you do see reversals on that ground sometimes, where you've got evidence that's too far away from the crime itself that's coming in that's unduly influencing the jury. So reversals happen in this universe, though honestly, the behavior here is so similar, and it all is sort of a long course of conduct that I don't love his chances on appeal.
Oh, I love that analysis, Mark Begno. Mitch Lucas, I want to go back to you here, please. This guy, Adam Montgomery, bad guy, and I started calling him Coward Montgomery when he wasn't showing up for his trial. He wasn't showing up, and his attorneys did a fine job proceeding without him. So many of us are wondering, are we going to see him in court for this appeal? Would you speak to what it's like when you have an inmate like that who doesn't want to do what they're supposed to do? It comes time for their trial. They should be showing up for their trial, but, you know, if they don't, they don't. What's that like when they fight you on that in the jail and you go to transport them and they may make it difficult on the deputies?
It makes it a high-risk transport, high-risk housing, and you have to take particular caution with them because if they're being that disruptive with regard to court proceedings, they're that disruptive with jail operations as well.
Yeah, I bet. Does he seem like a dangerous guy to you, Mitch? And I guess part two of that question, I also wonder if he's got a target on his back because he's a child killer. Would you weigh in on those things, please?
Both. What I've read about the case, he would be a maximum security type of inmate and one that you would have to protect the staff from and protect him from other inmates. It's not unusual for people who kill children to have a bad time of it in prison.
Really appreciate your insight. Mitch Lucas, thank you for making time to join us this morning. We'd love to have you back sometime in the future. Take care. Mark Begno is coming with us. You do the same at home, please. Up next here on Opening Statements, will there be another legal win for Luigi? His defense team wants his federal case dropped.
This week,
we're digging deeper into the biggest cases across the country. Join us for all the latest developments with what's trending in true crime.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Donna Adelson wasn't a regular mother.
She's the matriarch mastermind.
She's just being a parent, not a killer.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rowlands. Season finale, Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific.
Only on Court TV.
Welcome back. So let's talk about Luigi Mangione. Could he get his federal charges dismissed?
What are you doing? And it's completely out of touch. And it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
So his lawyers are seeking a dismissal of his federal case, which would include that death penalty eligible count on the indictment. So he's accused of assassinating United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. We know that. And it's the federal case where the death penalty could attach, right? Not the state case. Now, in this newest motion, his defense team is arguing that prosecutors are stretching the statutes beyond their intent and engaging in a reach in order to sensationalize the killing. Mangione has pleaded not guilty to 4 different charges, weapons charge, murder through the use of a firearms charge, and 2 counts of stalking. His attorneys asked the court to dismiss the firearm-related accusation, which carries the death penalty. Will they be successful on this? Let's talk about it. Let's bring back in our legal eagles attorneys, Mark Begno and Melba Pearson. Okay, Mark, what do you think? What do you think of this motion?
I think the motion has legs. So the count that they're seeking to get dismissed is a federal count for a murder that occurs while there is also another crime of violence. And so basically it's like a murder that occurs during like an armed robbery or something like that, where you have another crime of violence that's happening and a murder occurs during that. And I haven't heard anything that suggests that there is a second crime of violence occurring. I mean, it's a murder for sure, the allegation, but was there another crime of violence occurring? And I think they've alleged stalking, and I think that's a little thin. So in my read, this motion has legs.
Oh, that's interesting to hear you say that, Marco. We know Luigi Mangione has fans. He has fans in supporters. Don't even get me started on that. But Melba Pearson, what do you think? The motion, the likelihood of success here?
Yeah, I'm with Mark on this one. I definitely think it has legs. And also, there's a whole component with regards to the search and seizure of the weapon that's at the center of this entire case. So if that gets suppressed, yeah, it's going to be a wrap for those federal charges, because, you know, the allegation is that law enforcement did not get a warrant before they searched Mangione's backpack, which is where they recovered the gun and other evidence. So if that evidence gets suppressed, this federal case is sunk. And I agree with Mark, where's the nexus, right? Because the terrorism charge got dropped. The stalking, okay, one could argue it's violent, but you can stalk someone without using any threats or violence per se. So yeah, I think the federal prosecutors are in trouble with this one.
Oh, Melba, thank you for that. And thank you for bringing up what you did about the suppression issue. So we have some brand new photos from the body camera footage taken at McDonald's, where Luigi Mangione was arrested in Pennsylvania. So these are photos we haven't yet shown here on Court TV. So take a look. These are still photographs, again, taken from the body cam. And as Melba noted, Luigi Mangione's defense team is making the argument that prosecutors should not be able to use any statements he made to law enforcement officers there at the McDonald's, where he was with his backpack, where inside a gun and ammunition were found. He said he was not given his Miranda rights. And if he wasn't given his rights, he's saying anything he said should be excluded. Oh boy, Mark Begno, you do issues like this all the time. You practice constitutional law. That's really your wheelhouse. What do you think?
So the rules of the road here are basically, if this is a custodial interrogation, that specific language the Supreme Court has adopted, if he's in custody, if he's being interrogated, if he's being asked questions, those statements can't come in if he wasn't Mirandized first, unless, and there are some exceptions to that, like if it was just like a spontaneous utterance. And so you really kind of dive into the A, B, C of what happened there. You know, was he in custody? Was he handcuffed at the time? You know, was he free to leave? Are we at a point where kind of the badges of custody are in place? And then secondly, is he answering questions or is he just volunteering information? So I think that those are the two big questions to answer to determine, you know, kind of the strength and weakness of that motion.
Oh, a great explainer for us. Mark, thank you for that. I want to play a clip from one of Luigi Mangione's defense attorneys, well-known attorney in New York. Her name is Karen Agnifilo. Husband is Mark Agnifilo, who we saw a lot throughout his representation of Sean Diddy Combs. Let's take a look at some of what she shared. This was at a previous pretrial hearing.
I'm very concerned about my client's right to a fair trial in this case. He's being prejudiced by some statements that are being made by government officials. Like every other defendant, he's entitled to a presumption of innocence.
Okay, just a little sampling from her. Melba, I want to ask you generally about this defense team. As you've been watching and following, analyzing the case since the beginning, what are your thoughts on them and the approach that they're taking here?
I'm here for it. I am here for it because they have been very methodical. They're not running around trying to be in the spotlight. They're very focused on where the government's weaknesses are and targeting and being very surgical in how they're approaching this. And I will note, she brings up a point that I keep thinking about. This case has been highly politicized, and you have very high level officials from the White House on down who get on Talk TV and keep, making statements. And of course, that makes it very difficult for this defendant to get a fair jury. It's going to be hard no matter what. But when you have people of like presidential level making these kind of statements, it's going to be really difficult to make the argument that this can be, done in a fair and impartial manner, because everyone would have heard about it and everyone will have an opinion before, coming in and hearing all the facts that end up coming out in court. So,
great analysis. Perfect note to end on. We are out of time, but big thank you to our wonderful guests, Mark Begno in the studio, Melba Pearson joining us remotely. Thank you two so much.